Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Now, everyone loves the Yankees again. Of course, most of the season, people complain about the Yankees. They can be kind of a stiff, a mediocre team. At one point, we're only like one game over 500. Well, sparked by a 13-game win streak, the Yankees put themselves in a good footing for at least one of the wild card spots and within striking distance of the Tampa Bay Rays in the AL East. Now, as we mentioned in the previous episode, the Yankees had the bad Field of Dreams game. First of all, they started, Andrew Haney, who's like, of all the, pitchers, I mean, it'd be nice to have someone like, Cole in there, like that, but they had to get, Haney, who they got from the Angels, and he had absolutely nothing. Got whacked around, only went 5 innings, served up 7 runs, gave up also 3 homers as well. So put the Yankees in a hole and really didn't have much of a chance until some late inning heroics by the Yankees. Now down in the 9th, down 7-4, get a two-run home run from Aaron Judge, which was his second home run of the game. Gaudy hit one earlier, and then Giancarlo Stanton, who again a lot of fans been on this whole season, came up with some heroics of his own, hitting a 2-run home run of his own into the cornfields. Very majestical. I mean, if you're a viewer of this is like, wow, what a great game to watch. Of course, if you're a fan of either two, you're probably pulling your hair out. Puts the Yankees ahead 8-7 in the 9th inning, and you're probably thinking, wow, what a great win. Even though the season's been kind of rough a little bit, the Yankees been playing a little better lately, but still it's kind of been a rough season. Would be a great win to have. But no, of course, you can't have that because, as mentioned before, the Yankee bullpen's been struggling. But they kind of made up for a little bit by winning the next 2 games against the Chicago White Sox. But that was just kind of the beginning of the streak, which was, again, some impressive teams. Came back home, sweeping the Boston Red Sox, really sticking it to them. I meant the Red Sox been sticking it to the Yankees all season, so it was good to get revenge on that, including a day-night doubleheader and, of course, the day game, which we'll get to in a second. And as well as a quality team, the Atlanta Braves in their own building. Now, I guess, yes, it was only one of those 2-game series, but again, going on the road and again, get the wins against the White Sox, the wins against sweeping the Red Sox, kind of the 2-game sweep of the Braves, at least splitting 2 games with Oakland, taking 2 out there on the West Coast, which again is never easy with the time zone difference and the flying. Again, these are all quality playoff caliber teams that the Yankees beat, so it's not just beating bottom feeders, it's beating legitimate teams, which makes those wins even more powerful. Now, the streak itself tied a Yankee mark from 1961. That was from September 1st to September 12th when the 1961 Yankees won 13 games. The only problem is that team would go to win on 2 more, so that was more impressive. But 50 wins for the 61 team. But again, this is a win streak for the Yankees of 13 games. That was like, 60 years in the making. And again, the last time the Yankees won 13 games like that, the Yankees had players like you might have heard of, Mantle, Yogi Berra, Maris, Whitey Ford. Perhaps you heard some of those players. Maybe not. Who knows? Now, backtracking a little bit, as I mentioned before, that the Yankees swept that day-night doubleheader at Yankee Stadium. Now, what was important in that game was the first one because of Jonathan Loaisiga. Now, again, suppose it was a doubleheader. These were, 7th inning games, so it wasn't a full 9th inning. But Boone decided to use Loaisiga in the last 2 innings of that first game. And now, where I say probably his Yankee moment, now even though it wasn't a postseason, but for Loaisiga, this was probably his most impressive performance for the Yankee and very important. So, in the bottom of the 7th, a couple of runners, the first 2 runners get on with hits, then it ends up have bases loaded. So now he has bases loaded, nobody out. And you're like, oh my God, is he going to be able to handle this? Now at the time, the Yankees had a 5-3 lead, but it looked like a situation where at best the Yankees were going to leave there in a tied game, or the Yankees were going to blow the lead. But to Loaiziga's credit, he didn't panic. He buckled down, got a line out to center for 1 out, and then ended up striking out the next 2 Red Sox hitters, to end the game actually with Hunter Renfroe. So very impressive for Loaiziga, but really very important because, Chapman, even though he's been a little better lately, which we'll get into, but there could be situations down the road where, and Boone has done this before, use Loaiziga in high leverage, high pressure situations in the 9th inning. And again, if Chapman's head's not there and if he just can't get it together, probably going to good chance you can see Loaiziga close out the game. So the fact that Loaiziga in that big spot against the Boston Red Sox, again, bases loaded, nobody out. Yeah, it's a regular season game, but still very important situation. Loaiziga, didn't falter. And as I mentioned in the last episode, the last 3 games of the regular season is against the Rays at Yankee Stadium. You know what the baseball gods are going to do. The last 3 games of the season for the Yankees are at home against, of course, the Tampa Bay Rays, and you just know it's going to happen, whether the Yankees are up by a game or 2 or behind a game or 2. It just feels like that weekend, those last 3 games at Yankee Stadium are going to be so crucial. So, again, this 13-game win streak, which, before it started, there was no way you're going to catch the Rays. Even, not sure if you maybe overleap the Red Sox. Well, now they're kind of knocked the Red Sox aside a little bit, and now they're right in the Rays rearview mirror. So Again, if the Yankees take advantage of that September schedule, which I broke down last time, they could maybe get it within 2 games, or maybe the Yankees might be up a game or 2 against the Rays, and then got a legitimate shot for the AL East, which you want way more than a wild card, where you're going to be on the road and kind of maybe, just on the road. It might be that 1-game showdown for the first game. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to be the home team. You want that AL East crown, and the Yankees are going to start getting some pieces back we're going to get into, such as Kluber, which might give them a great chance to do just that. And one of the important pieces the Yankees were waiting to get back to make that push against the Rays was Corey Kluber in the rotation. Again, throws the no-hitter, and then the start after that has to be shut down after a while. He couldn't get out of like the 2nd or 3rd inning, and there were chances of we were going to see this guy again, but he did get back. The last week of August, opened up that series against the Angels in Anaheim. Now, his rehab starts weren't that impressive. It was an 11.25 ERA in 8 innings. We're like, I don't know what they're going to get here. But rehab starts, you don't put too much into it. You usually just want to stretch yourself out, work on some pitches. And now in that opening game, that's really where you kind of test yourself against Major League hitting. And initially, Kluber was looking pretty good. He almost threw 40 pitches, was looking sharp, had a 2-0 lead, even had a sharp slider to strike out Ohtani. It was looking good there. Then a couple of runners got on. It was a bases-loaded situation. Now, you could look at this a few different ways. I mean, I really think Boone should have had some guys up there to yank him out against his first start in in several months. It looks like he was tiring a little bit, and he was going to be on a pitch count anyway. They should have yanked him out, but I think just because he's a veteran and his resume and the 2 Cy Young awards, you kind of give him probably the benefit of the doubt. A rookie would have been out of there right away. But anyways, they kept Kluber in there. Unfortunately, on the first pitch to Jack Mayfield, he hits a grand slam, and it just kind of, just took the taste out of the mouth. He went from up 2-1 to now losing 5-2, and of course he takes Kluber out. But I don't really look at it as a bad start, again, because he was good overall, and his next couple of starts he's going to build up his arm straight. So at least that he came out of the game healthy, and that's a good sign. I think his next few starts obviously be a little better with that. It's the first game against the Angels in Anaheim. I know they don't have no Mike Trout and anything like that, but it's still not an easy task. So I think it's good news for the Yankees. As for Andrew Heaney, who the Yankees got from the Angels to be in the rotation, well, they now moved him to the bullpen. They want to try him out in some different situations, just to see if maybe it could be a long reliever or to try experiment, maybe come to be get a big lefty out. Obviously, he was just going to he was a placeholder anyway until Kluber came back. And of course, with Abreu, they optioned this to go to AAA. He was a good, valuable weapon for the Yankees, but again, once as the roster expands in September, he'll be around. Just once they're done with him in the minors. So not really a big deal. You see him along the way. And again, since he was in a Yankee uniform before September 1st, if they value him as a weapon, he's definitely someone who could possibly make the postseason roster. As for the other half of the Yankee starting rotation puzzle, Luis Severino, who we've all been waiting for on. Well, good news, bad news. I mean, he did fly out to LA to get an opinion on his shoulder. Turns out there was no structural damage, but and he could return to a throwing program. But now he's really taken another step back, where I just don't know realistically if there's enough. He could get enough work in to be ready to face major league hitters on a consistent basis. And if it is, there's no way you could count on him as a starting pitcher. Maybe at best, have him in a bullpen role, or just maybe for 2 innings at most. I just don't think by the time he does his throwing, does his rehab, and come back to face some major league hitting, this is not going to be enough to stretch him out, where he could count on him as a starter. So really, at this point, I think it's time for Kluber to definitely get back into the rotation, where he could give you maybe 6 good innings. But there's just not enough time for Luis Severino. And frankly, until he's actually on the mound, because now this is like his 3rd setback. First he had the groin issue. Then he tried to a couple weeks ago try to warm up. He had the shoulder issue, needed the MRI. Okay, great, no structural damage, but until he's actually on the mound in a major league uniform, almost really you can't count him for 2021. And another one of the Yankees' unsolved mysteries that they need to get right. Again, if you want to consider this team, legit playoff, make a deep run in the playoffs into the World Series, has been Aroldis Chapman. Now he has been a little bit better lately. I know Boone has kind of put him back in some pressure situations, but it hasn't been, again, it has been without anxiety. And in fact, if you look at the second that Braves game, almost blew the game. It came to the point where now, Boone is like this yanking him out of there, which is the right move now. Like once he falters a little bit, he's been yanking him out there. So, if you remember that Braves game, like Chapman sweated a ton. Like, I don't know, what's this guy like? It would be like 100 degrees and he's still wearing long sleeve shirts and stuff like that. So he's got to do better control. Maybe that's the reason why he's wild a little bit. Maybe his hand's wet. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. But the yin yang for that has been now the emergence of Wandy Peralta, who remember Cashman traded for a couple of months ago with Mike Talkman, and so, Peralta is kind of part of that group. Nestor Cortez, Wade, Gardner just being and Odor just kind of being these like tough on blue collar guys. Well, Peralta's there. He's been fabulous for the Yankees, and in that game when he did yank out Chapman, put Peralta in there, and he was able to get Freddie Freeman out in a big spot, bases loaded, to preserve a 5-4 win. So again, Chapman's going to have the whole month of September to hopefully get his confidence back. And he's been a little bit better lately, but you still have he's still on anxiety. But again, for the Yankees, if they have any dreams of winning the World Series, they have to have Chapman fully confident. And this is times in there where he's just not confident to throw his fastball, even if it's like 103 miles per hour. He can't locate, and he has no confidence, and that's when he keeps throwing these sliders, and becomes too predictable. So he's got to get that fastball back. Got to be confident in it. But it's just, again, of the good that come from that has been the emergence of Wandy Peralta, who now Boone has been put in high pressure situations, and again, not afraid to yank Chapman out if he's struggling, which I think he should be doing last season and the season before that. And as for our old friend Mike Talkman, at the time of the trade, people were like, well, what are you doing? Why you trade him? Because at the time, Brett Gardner was looking real bad at the time, and people weren't sure if this was the right move. Well, months later, you kind of have to give kudos to Cashman on this one of the two, and definitely Peralta's been flourishing in the Yankee bullpen. As for our friend, Mike Talkman, because here in early August, he actually got DFA'd to AAA Sacramento for the Giants organization. So again, of the two of them, looks like Peralta made out well. And for Talkman, again, when he went to the Giants, hit a home run right away. It was looking good. It was almost looked like a bad trade for Cashman. But in the long run, Cashman made the right call. And another reason why Peralta is going to be important is that pretty much looks like that's the end of 2021 for our friend Zach Britton. Again, was struggling, gave up that big home run again in the Field of Dreams game, and as we went crying to Boone, you don't trust me anymore in these games. I can't get anybody out anymore. After the Field of Dream game, he was just so crushed. He actually went to Boone and just told him, "Look, I can't do this anymore. I'm just letting the team down." Physically telling him he doesn't deserve the closer role, which is pretty powerful in itself, and that maybe it's something you want to keep in-house. But he actually let the press know that that's what he said. So he's just in a real defeated state right now. So he's got a case of like the Chuck Knobloch yips situation with Britton, where he just can't get the big out, or he just can't throw that third strike when he needs to, and he's just gonna have to find his way. Because you need the big three at the end, which would be Green, Britton, Chapman. And it's an unfortunate situation because he does seem like a nice guy, but he's pretty much going to be shut down for the year with elbow soreness. Now, they were throwing out that possibility that he might need Tommy John. Now, no one officially recommended that in terms of the doctors, and there's no tear in his UCL from what they see, but they just think, and at least Britton thinks it's early in the season when he had the bone chips removed from his elbow. Possibly came back early, could be just from some fatigue from that. And of course, he had a bout of COVID. So this 2021 has been a complete meltdown for Britton. So from just a consensus, unless he just gets a power surge out of nowhere, it seems like they're pretty much going to shut him down for the rest of September. It's just he just doesn't have the elbow strength, and just hope that he's back healthy in 2022 for spring training. And for players that weren't traded, Luke Voit. He's actually playing some of his best baseball this season. He looked like a stiff, for the most part. But since they made the Rizzo trade, maybe he was crowing like, I want to play, which I think people made such a big deal about. Of course, he's a major league player and a normal starter. Of course, he's going to say he wants to play, but it wasn't a point where he's going to start breaking TV sets and stuff inside the clubhouse. And with Rizzo going down for a little bit with COVID, again he lost a little weight, and even though he came back, really not at full strength yet, and been hit a little bit, but not really hitting the way he hit like those first couple games when the Yankees got him when he started hitting down in Miami. But so to fill that void's actually been hitting well and taking his place. Now over the long haul, I think the Yankees, and just overall, it just makes more sense to Rizzo to get more of the time at first base. Again, he's a superior defender than Voit, and of course the left-handed bat, which the Yankees need in that lineup to give it some balance. So even in the long run, maybe Voigt's going to lose some time, especially when it comes time to the postseason. But again, to Voigt's credit, he hasn't let it get him down, and again, he's doing he's probably doing some of his best hitting of the season so far. And of course, we can't go without mentioning the feel-good story lately of Bronx native Andrew Velasquez, local guy from the Bronx, attended Fordham Prep, and he's just one of these blue-collar guys that's come up recently and has been, very instrumental for the Yankees, both offensively, not really hitting home runs, but poking homers, poking hits here and there. But his defense been, pretty steady at defense. But speaking of home runs, hit his first career home run at home at Yankee Stadium in front of his family. So you got a Yankee fan growing up, hitting a home run at Yankee Stadium in front of the family. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that. And of course, he's just holding a spot until Gleyber Torres, is back officially in the lineup now. It's going to be kind of interesting situation because Gleyber really hasn't had a great season overall. But of course, I just think once he's back and fully healthy, he's probably going to get more as the bulk of the playing time because as good as Velasquez has been, and it's a very inspirational story, and he's the local guy. I think in terms of upside and ability, we know what the numbers that Gleyber could put up when he's fully healthy. So we'll see how that works out. I personally think with Gleyber not really having a great season, and yeah, he's had a couple good seasons in the past, but he's not at a point where you say he's a veteran or where he's owed something. So if I'm booed, I'm just going with more of the hot hand. And again, Velasquez has been making a lot of plays at shortstop. Boot once in a while, but Gleyber has been very this season, offensively and defensively, hasn't been that great out there. So I say when they both come back, just go with the hotter hand. But it seems initially they're going to want to give Gleyber the first swing of the bat there, just because he's been around a couple of years longer. And again, ability-wise, at least home run power-wise, Gleyber probably definitely has the edge there. Now, for a Yankee who has turned his season around has been Giancarlo Stanton, probably the Yankees' hottest hitter, and you might even say one of the hottest hitters in baseball. Again, he was that for the Yankees since up in early May when he got the quad injury. Then he was just gone for a while, and even when he came back, he just looked like a Frankenstein stiff up there. But in August and of lately, he's just been a home run machine, crushing balls. Again, that Friday game in Oakland, crushed a 2-foot home run in left center field. And again, if you know the old Oakland Coliseum, what the hell they call it these days? I mean, that's like a football field. I mean, you hit a home run like second deck of a football field. So he's been very impressive lately. So if he just keeps this going and could be like the Stanton we saw last year in the playoffs, hitting some big home runs against Cleveland as well early on against Tampa. That's just a great weapon for the Yankees. And for that home run that Stanton hit, 472 feet, is the longest home run hit by a Yankee batter this season. And fans have been excited. Of course, when you win 13 games in a row, it kind of gets fans' attention, and it's been waking everyone up a little bit. Again, Yankee fans have been a little crummy this season, just, yelling at Boone, yelling at Cashman, like that. But now, with having a hot August, and of course, just the way someone like Stanton's hit lately, a lot more fans tuning in. And yes, Network is reporting that some of their ratings they've gotten been pretty hot in August, averaging 325,000 viewers per telecast on average. And for the Yes app, which hopefully you all got downloaded, 5 out of the 10 most watched games that have been, 5 out of 10 most streamed games this season have been in August. And just going back to that Friday night Oakland game again, where Stanton hit that 472-foot bomb, that drew in, again, that's the West Coast game, 295,000 viewers. Now again, this is West Coast, so Yankee fans have to stay up a little late to watch this one, but got a big audience, and of the Yankees, that was their biggest audience of a West Coast telecast since 2017. And as I'm sure you well know, the 11th of this month, September 11th, is going to be the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on New York, as well as in Pennsylvania, they're playing, and Washington, D.C. And of course, just very fittingly, that's when the Mets and Yankees are going to play together. I'm sure they planned that out beforehand. So I'm sure at Citi Field, you could expect a lot of events and stuff like that and ceremonies, and probably going to bring a lot of people out to speak and the flag and all that. So it's going to be very emotional. I think once the game starts, then no love lost and the fans will be cursing each other out. But that's all well and good. It's New York baseball rivalry. But for the Yankees, this is really a good time to catch the Mets. The Mets have been sliding lately. A lot of stuff going around now with some of their main cogs. Of course, like Jacob deGrom, who's been shut down since July. He finally got the green light to resume his throwing, but it's going to be hard to say whether he'll be back in time for one of those starts. I just know you might have to take a couple of rehab starts and get him some rest and some throwing in. So I don't know if he'll be back in time for one of those games, or if he is back and it is his first game back since July. Might be a little rusty, and again with all the just the weekend and facing the Yankees and stuff, maybe he'll be off his game a little bit. An opportunity maybe to steal one from him. Either way, that's kind of a good situation for the Yankees. And in terms of other Mets starters, Noah Syndergaard, who may remember, been out for a while, working his way back. Just been from the Tommy John. Now, unfortunately, he also came under the COVID protocol. It's not just the Yankees are getting COVID. He gets, he either got himself or someone around him was affected. So he's going to be away for the team for a while. So who knows if he comes back in time and is able to maybe get some throws in to be ready for one of those starts. And of course, with Syndergaard, it's going to be an important month for him because the Mets got to make a decision on him whether they want to bring him back for next year or not. So I think to help his case, if you pitched a really good game and beat the brains out of the Yankees, helps the case there. So there would be some motivation. But if the Yankees could avoid him, great. And there's a lot of negativity around the Mets and the fans. They've been booing Lindor a lot. They've been booing the manager, Luis Rojas, a lot. And now it's kind of developed to the Mets kind of feel like they're victims against their own fans. And of course, I'm sure you know the whole situation with Javier Baez, after hitting the home run, doing the thumbs down, kind of sticking it back to the Met fans. And now it's kind of maybe it's a thing within the team that, hey, they're booing us, so we're going to boo them back, or celebrate with boos and stuff like that. Now, you might remember a couple of seasons ago with the Yankees, that became their thing, the thumbs down in the 2017 season, mainly started by Todd Frazier. Now, if you might remember, it was actually at Citi Field as well, but it was actually a game between Tampa and the Yankees. It was actually a home game for the Tampa because this was a hurricane situation down there, so they actually rescheduled that game to be at Citi Field. And there was some crabby Met fan that attended the game that he actually put his thumb down. And I think it was kind of a funny thing. So kind of some of the Yankee players, mainly Todd Frazier when he was with the Yankees, picked that up and became kind of their rally call. But it was done in a humorous way, in a funny way. This thing with Baez was kind of sticking it to his own fans and turned a lot of people off, in the media, as well as the new Met owner Steve Cohen actually putting out a statement. Blah, 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 I can't do this. We love our fans. They express themselves like that. And Baez kind of had to apologize a little bit and indirectly like that. So, the kind of that thing going on. And Francisco Lindor himself, not been a good season, for the Mets. Again, got paid over $300 million, huge contract. And, at the time, Met fans were all excited about it. And, got a new owner with money, brings in Lindor and that stuff. And Lindor really hasn't had a good season and was hurt himself for a while too. Again, to come back really recently. But it's really just been a bad contract. And you just look back for the Yankee offseason. Remember, there was some talk that possibly the Yankees might be looking at him, maybe a trade with Gleyber Torres. And then we're not saying that Gleyber Torres has been great for the Yankees, but to trade for a guy like that and then have to give him a boatload of money would have been an absolute disaster. And again, the Yankees definitely dodged a bullet with that one. And it could be a situation for Lindor. Maybe he just wants to make his mark because Mets kind of a shot for the playoffs, but it's really fading fast. So, these 3 games against the Yankees might be their World Series for the season. So, it could be a situation where maybe Lindor wants to do something big, so maybe he's swinging out of his shoes. So, again, throw him some breaking balls, throw him some off-speed stuff, and just get the Met fans to boo at him, which would be terrific. And with Luis Gil, who's fabulous, as a Yankee starter. Now the Yankees, they optioned to AAA just to work him out of the bullpen, which, of course, where that's going to. You say, hey, why mess with this guy? He was great as a starter, but it's a situation where he's going to be a weapon out of the bullpen, whether to go maybe 2 innings, 3 innings, or just blow someone away. So they're going to start working him out of the bullpen just to get him in that mentality of coming out of the pen. And again, if Chapman can't get his act together, because he's just come up and he's been absolutely fearless, maybe doesn't know any better. So hopefully it's Chapman, but again, could possibly be a little wiser, or someone like Luis Gil, who's just comes in there and has no fear and just strikes everybody out. You want to strike out people. Now, if there's a playoff, it's going to be interesting, how this happens at Yankee Stadium. As you know, the COVID Delta variant's been going around, a lot more contagious. Now, there's been no official word yet if only vaccinated people are going to be allowed into the stadium. Of course, Bill de Blasio signed a mandate now for the restaurants and all the indoor venues like that. You got to show your Vax card or your Vax passport. Now, they didn't mention how this is going to be rolled out at an open-air venue like Yankee Stadium. Now, the Brooklyn Nets, who is the Yankees' partner in crime in terms of the Yes Network, for the Barclays Center, you have to be vaccinated to get inside. So, but that's because in an enclosed environment. Outdoor environment, Yankee Stadium, don't know how it's going to play out. Now, I'm thinking if you want to sell the place out for 48 or 50,000 people, I don't think you can put a vaccine or a passport mandate in. But again, it's going to be up in the air how this rolls out. And hopefully September, if they get the numbers down, then it's not an issue. If the numbers keep going up, might prevent some fans from going to the playoff games. Now, earlier with the Yankee win streak, I mentioned the 1961 Yankees. Now, last season during the playoffs, unfortunately, we lost Whitey Ford. He was kind of the last of the Yankee golden legends to pass away. And I guess just with the playoffs, it kind of, got swept on the rug a little bit, unfortunately. But the Yankees have been honoring with the number 16 over here. So I figured we'd take some time to look at the chairman of the board. Now, in that 1961 season, not only was the Cy Young Award winner, but also the World Series MVP. Now, he pitched for the Yankees from 1950 up to 1967, and he earned that nickname, Chairman of the Board, just for staying cool and calm under high-pressure situations. Like it would be nice if Chapman could. So Ed Charles Ford was born in Manhattan. Now, at age 5, he moved to Astoria, which is where he grew up, and he earned the nickname Whitey while he was in the minor league system for the Yankees because of his light blonde hair. He finally made his debut with the New York Yankees on July 1st, 1950, and won his first 9 decisions, so they probably feel they had something special there, and only suffered his first loss in a relief appearance. Now, Whitey missed the 1951 and 1952 seasons by serving in the U.S. Army during the Korean War. So if you look at it, possibly, instead of only pitching 16 years for the Yankees, there could have been a situation where he would have pitched 18 for the Yankees, and he gave kind of 2 of his young prime years up just to serve his country. So honorable there. And when Ford came up with the Yankees in 1950, he wore number 19. When he came back and rejoined the team in 1953, he switched to number 16, which he would wear on his back for the rest of his Yankee career. And in addition to losing 2 seasons to serve in the war, also Casey Stengel didn't help him much as well. Where once Ford became seen as his best pitcher, he would kind of hold him back a little bit, schedule him, reserve him for some of the Yankees' arch rivals instead of just throwing him aimlessly out there. And during his tenure with Casey Stengel, he only started 30 games once. Now, once Stengel was fired or let go after the 1960 debacle against the Pirates and Ralph Houck was put in there, Ralph Houck kind of took off the training wheels and just pretty much let Ford start every 4th game, so he wasn't held back. And as a result, in that season, Ford was able to start 39 games and for the first time in his career, become a 20-game winner. And of course, that's the season where he won the Cy Young, posting a 25-4 record. And it just goes to show that if Stengel maybe let Ford pitch every 4th game instead of just holding him back and just trying to schedule him for only certain starts against certain teams, he might even have more wins to his record. In addition to going 25-4 in 1961 and winning the Cy Young, he also set a record at the time by pitching in 243 consecutive innings without even allowing a stolen base. The only problem with Ford in that 61 season, of course, was overshadowed by the great race between Mantle and Maris to try to break Babe Ruth's record, which Maris eventually did, hitting 61 home runs. But again, under all that, Ford had this incredible season. Overall, Ford appeared in 8 All-Star games between 1954 and 1964 and was a 6-time World Series champion. Unfortunately for Ford, by 1966, started to break down a little bit, and by August of that year, needed to be shut down and have surgery for a circulatory problem in his shoulder. Would try to come back in 1967, but after one start in May, basically only lasted 1 inning, and by the end of the month, officially called it quits and retired now as a Yankee, but retired his baseball career. And a few more pieces about Whitey Ford. He was elected to the Hall of Fame with his good friend and teammate Mickey Mantle in 1974, which is the same year the Yankees retired his number 16. And of course, Ford would get his plaque in Monument Park in 1987. And as Ford himself, he's seen as the supreme Yankee pitcher, holding the record for most wins for the franchise with 236, most shutouts with 45, which you will never see again, innings pitched with 3,170 and a third, and is tied with games started with the pitcher you may have heard of, Andy Pettitte, with 438. And now the thing that me and Pettitte have in common is that we both have big schnozzes.